Sex and drugs and rock and roll is all my brain and body need. Sex and drugs and rock and roll is very good indeed.
So why do businesses repeat themselves? In fact, why do organisations repeat themselves? Because it's an important question. We have a little time to answer it. Of course, you know this answer. You'll have all been on the university courses where Jerry Johnson and the bandwagon has been trolled out to you. And you all know, of course, the fact that, you know, people say they want to do culture change, and actually what they mean is they're going to change the logos on the wine bottles and the things like this, because that's easy to do, but actually all this other stuff gets in the way. So people often say we'll do that over a weekend. So if you are to do culture change, you need to do both the soft and the hard elements together, and it takes some time. Of course, you could learn the same lessons from Brittany, you know, because businesses say, oops, I did that again. I did the same behaviour. I didn't mean to. It's out of date with what we're trying to do. So the sort of notion of a learning organisation becomes quite difficult to do, because we are, of course, generally creatures of habit. So let's look at success in two different contexts. People often say, and they would say it in this university all the time on MBA courses, one needs a strong culture to have a successful business. Why would we disagree with that? Why not? One needs to actually have habits. They are, of course, there to be used. And here's some creatures of habit. If anyone likes U2 or Oasis, forgive me, but they have played the same song over and over again. As indeed, I love the Rolling Stones and Oasis, but they have played the same song over and over again. The Rolling Stones have not really dealt with reggae or jazz fusion during that. They haven't changed the paradigm. They've simply knocked out songs that are sort of broadly similar. And that has actually made them an absolute fortune as a strong culture. Same is true in sort of business in terms of Sony, Ryanair, love them or loathe them. They have a very strong culture. Who loathes Ryanair? Who loves them? A few. But it's like the bankers, there's so many people who loathe them. But you know what they stand for? I met someone a while back, and they said, I hate the company. I really hate the whole company. And I said, have you ever been on them? And they said, no. They knew what it stood for without ever travelling on Ryanair. They're cheap and crap and all this sort of thing. But it is only a penny to go to Ireland, and I've argued with the Irish on this. I said, well, where could you go for a penny? And they go, yeah, it's the taxes, and he gets other things out of it. But it's a very strong culture. He's very clear as well, as a business strategist. He says, if you don't want to travel for a penny and don't want to accept rubbish, then don't. And I think he wrote a letter to the King of Belgium or the President, because they wouldn't let him land in some country, and the letter just had 2 words in it. And I forget what they were. Fortunately, because we need to get on to the end here. Strong cultures are fine, but when the world changes around them, they're not fine. That's the point. So you need your strong culture, but you need to be able to actually change what you do and take your audience with you. And here's some examples of people who've done that. Madonna, love her or loathe her, it doesn't really matter. She's moved several times. David Bowie is another good example. Prince is another good example. And the Beatles, had they carried on, they kept their audience, whereas most of the people in rock music change what they do and lose their audience. And I've worked with a one-hit wonder called John Otway, and he had 2 hits, but he had 25 years of failure in the middle. That isn't, of course, the same bottom line as those people. And, of course, on the business front, you get companies like Toyota. Now, I know someone's bound to discuss the brake problem. There isn't time to discuss the brake problem. It's a tiny little speck on the horizon. Toyota is, their biggest fear, the chief executive of Toyota, is becoming ossifying, of actually turning into a company that thinks it's won. So that's possibly, if they respond well to this, they will do well. Skoda, of course, we're now proud to own Skodas. I don't think we've got time for Tim Smith. No, probably not. So we're going to have to skip him, but it'll be available online. So before the Eden Project, I understand... Yeah, we haven't got time for him. Yes, we have got time for him, actually.
One day I was asked to do an advertisement for a product. They wanted something classical. And I looked at the opening bars of Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto in B-flat minor, you know, bum, 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 bum. It's really famous. And I got the computer up and I was putting in the first notes of the whole thing to get the first thing. And I'm thinking about saying there's like 47, 48 instruments playing right at the start. But I was up to like instrument 46 and it was sounding like the most terrible noise. It was just, I must have programmed it wrong, I thought, but anyway, I'll do the last two things. And the last two things went in and suddenly, wallop, I was like plastered against the back of the room and it was perfect. And I thought that, I understood for the first time in my life what genius was. Absolute genius. This person had conceived in their head of the different sonics that were required to create that wall of sound. But you can't get it on a piano, you can't do it on a guitar. You need all that dissonance and that big thing. And that became for me a tremendous metaphor about building teams. And that's how I see it. I'm aware that you need the dissonance, you need the order, it's all the talents, and it's a terrible cliche. People always talk about you need all the talents, but so often people hire people like them, or they get rid of people who are a bit edgy. And actually you need all of that ferment to create a sense of rigor, to create a sense of challenge, and also great comfort when everybody suddenly goes, yes.
Okay, I think we've probably run out of time to do this, but this will be available on the download. There's a piece of sort of structured improvisation which we could do as a finale. I don't think we've really got time, have we, Jack? No. So, nor have we got time for sex in biz and rock and roll. Well, so
that is a possibility.
Well, we'll see if we can manage it. We've got about a minute and a half, I think. So let's do the thing that keynote speakers normally do, which is tell you what you've just told them. So I will do that because that's important, actually. So, of course, what can you learn from music in terms of learning at work and becoming a learning organisation is moving people around. One of the things that Tim talks about is when people get stuck in a role, he moves them out of the role into a place where they're uncomfortable and to avoid ossifying. And get people to swap instruments from time to time. This introduces naivety. Now, you don't really want continuous naivety, but a degree of creative tension is necessary to provide learning and organisations that do so. And that big organisation that you mentioned is constantly eulogising about how to have a proper structure. Well, try not to have too much of a standard structure and have structures that around the structure that support experimentation. The best way to learn about this is not to read a book about chaos, complexity and experimentation. The best way to do this is come to a jam session. Sing. Sex in biz and rock and roll is all my brain and body needs. Sex in biz and rock and roll. You're ahead of it, very good indeed. Forget your paradigm or reconstruct the culture. Leave up fads and fashion, don't be a culture vulture. I will not wear the clothing of Sir Alan Sugar. Cut the crap acidity, no more business vinegar. We are very much done. That's it. If you want to read more, read it at the tea break. Thank you.
And for financial wisdom that you can trust, according to a letter in the Financial Times, that is, people should turn to the lyrics of rock songs. The FT correspondent sees Money by Pink Floyd as a warning of the subprime crisis, the Pet Shop Boys as incisive analysts of the credit boom. For example, in their song Opportunities, you've got the banks, I've got the shops, let's make lots of money.
14 minutes to 7, the headline this morning.
Sex and drugs and rock and roll.